All right, Charlie Gasparino, the first to break the news that President Trump has already hired a private attorney to represent him on this whole potential impeachment thing, someone who knows that very well and the ins and outs of that. Red Alert Politics editor Ron Meyer, former Bush 43 National Get Out the Vote director Phil Stutts, and Washington Free Beacon's Liz Harrington. Liz, on this and the fact that we now have the administration, I guess, lawyering up just in case. Is this going to be a real battle here? What do you foresee?
Well, I think it's been a real battle from the beginning against Democrats and the media who are attacking Trump for nearly everything he does. And I think it makes sense for Trump to bring in a trusted ally. This lawyer's been with him for over a decade and handled a lot of legal battles, which Trump has been accustomed to in his career. So I think it makes sense for him to bring in someone he can trust and an ally, because this investigation is going to continue, the leaks are going to continue, and Trump needs someone there to help him push back on that.
Ron Meyer, where do you think this goes? I mean, at the very least, it could change the possibility of Joe Lieberman becoming FBI director because of his connection to that said law firm. But beyond that, what do you think?
Well, beyond it, I think that it means Trump's taking these things more seriously, and he's also trying to have people around him that he can trust. I think the problem is when you hire a special prosecutor to start looking into these Russia ties, you have to ask, what crime are they investigating? And the other problem you have with these special prosecutors is, are they going to find something? Are they going to try to do anything? Otherwise, it kind of you kind of wonder, why did it exist in the first place? And so there's a pressure on these people to find something to investigate or find something to prosecute on. And so that's kind of the question. What we saw from these Brennan hearings, the former CIA director, is that there's no evidence. And further, what crime would they be looking at? As Senator Rand Paul just pointed out on your program, what crime are they looking for that the Trump campaign could have been engaged in? Because talking to Russians is not a crime, even if they did that. And further, wouldn't the CIA director have access to these conversations because they're spying? They have these phone records. So wouldn't they already prosecute in the first place? Well,
you know, it always comes back, Philip, and this is maybe why people seize on the Watergate thing, which I think is a little bit of a stretch. But having said that it's what happens after the alleged crime that to Ron's point, you can't prove. This notion that the president was trying to obstruct an investigation or urge his top guys to do their best to get it out of the way. Now, a lot of that you could give deference to the president by saying he doesn't know the political niceties and the rules of the game, that unlike the business world, that doesn't look good, and that could be unconstitutional. But leaving it aside, do you think that argument that the president was doing his best to stop something or thwart something is what comes back to bite him?
You know, it's a really good question, Neil, but I mean, I keep going back to this. The reason you would bring in your own personal lawyer has to do with the campaign issues. The White House counsel's office could handle what's gone on since the president has been sworn in. And really, the main focus right now is that he wants to have his own personal lawyer in place. He'll have to pay for it out of his own pocket, and there are some privacy concerns.
Yeah, I guess that is right.
Yeah, that is. And that precedent was set by Bill Clinton back in the 90s. And remember this, Jack Quinn was the White House counsel for President Clinton. He's already come out and said this is something that's necessary and very appropriate for Donald Trump to do.
You know, Liz, I did mention before his business background, and where this sort of thing where you just speak frankly and off the cuff and you want to know what's going on and you want the latest, that doesn't fly in Washington, where appearances count for a lot, and even looking like you might be doing something untoward counts for a constitutional crisis. Having said that, do you think the president would be well advised now not to even discuss, mention, share, talk about any of this with anyone but that lawyer?
Well, I think he would be well advised to find some of the leakers from in his own administration who are leaking all of these private,
it seems like everybody is. That's a whole nother ball of wax, right?
It's insane. I mean, you have all of these leaks. I mean, what was the fear with the Russia meddling in the first place? It was that they're undermining our democracy by interfering. What's more undermining to our democracy when you have unelected bureaucrats on a daily basis leaking classified information, selectively which seems on the sole basis to undermine the president who they work for. I think that's a real scandal that we're talking about here. I think Trump would be well advised to get that under control first, and maybe with his lawyer only talk to him from now on, because, I mean, the leaks are really out of control.
You know, Ron, everything depends on whether you can keep your own party in your fold. That began to dissolve for Richard Nixon as soon as there was the discovery of tapes, and then they got the tapes. That is not happening right now. There might be some Republicans who disagree with the president's characterization, for example, of James Comey as a nut job. Just today, Speaker Paul Ryan didn't share that view. But besides, they are staying supportive of the president or keeping their opinions to themselves. What are you looking for in the weeks and months ahead?
Well, I think you got to look at those who are running in swing districts in 2018, and some of them have started to abandon the president. And this is why it's in the president's interest to get this done as quickly as possible. You said, what should he ask his attorney to do, or should he be speaking on this? He has to ask his attorney to wrap this thing up as fast as possible. Encourage the government's prosecutor, who's using taxpayer dollars, to get this done as quickly as possible.
They're not going to let him wrap it up. No one's going to let him wrap this up. This is like a pay-per-view event.
But that's the issue. It's our tax dollars.
They're not going to let him wrap it up, right, Phillip? I don't see that
Neil,
happening.
I tell you this. I have a lot of friends in Congress that work on the Democratic side. They said since this president has been inaugurated, their #1 behind closed doors conversations they have with their bosses is impeachment at some point in the next 2 or 4 years. They're not overt about it right now. They're covert about it. But that is their #1 party. This is the first stone they're throwing into the water. They're hoping
they might
it sticks.
want to look at Republicans on the Bill Clinton thing, because that was a party that went one step too far, and it came back to bite their respective heinies. But we shall see. Guys, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Neil.
Hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you.